Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Big Chief channel. Joining you today is myself, your host, Aaron Lee, as well as a familiar face, because today we'll be talking about something really interesting, and I believe some of us may have some PTSD from encountering in our lives, which is the termination of employment. Such a horrific topic, but nonetheless, we'll have a friend to soothe the pain. Hopefully, none other than our friend Azizan. Welcome in, Azizan. How's it going today?
Very good, very good. Thank you very much. How everyone? How
How
Aaron?
everyone? Now, isn't it true that a lot of people may find this topic a little bit scary, huh?
Not really, not really, not really. Sometimes we need to understand termination. The word termination of employment,
Mm-hmm.
termination can be voluntary and involuntary termination. Yeah,
Oh.
voluntary termination is you
Ah,
resign because you have another job, for example, or you hate your boss. You look for another job. That's it. Yeah? And
I see.
involuntary resignation is you are forced to resign. Not to say forced, but sometimes because of misconduct, because of discipline, because of performance, and you are
Mm-hmm.
required to. I mean, your services have been terminated, so to
Ah,
say, yeah,
I see.
involuntarily, yeah, yeah. But
So,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead,
So
go ahead,
basically,
yeah.
there are a lot of ways that you could be so-called terminated, right? Either
Oh yes, yes,
voluntarily or involuntarily. But today,
yeah.
I believe we're going to be talking about what to do after getting terminated, right?
No, wait. Today we're going to talk about
The
the
process.
process
Okay.
of termination. Yeah. Next week we'll talk about what to
All
do,
right.
because I want to complete the flow. Last week we
I
talked
see.
about if someone doesn't want to resign, or someone, how do you get someone to voluntarily resign,
Okay.
or to someone write a letter of resignation on their own without implicating the company in any way.
Awesome. So today, just to clarify, is part one. Yeah, part one. Next week will be part two about termination.
Right, that was
Okay.
termination. Yeah, yeah. Next week we'll talk about
Mm.
surviving the termination, or what to do after that if you are being terminated because of the slowdown of business and so forth. You have been retrenched. So we talked about that next week,
Fair enough. I believe
hopefully. Right,
the way that you approach it may vary to what happened during the termination process, right? So, I think maybe
right,
that
right, right.
today we'll
Yeah.
explore the different what's it called, the different processes of termination. Yeah. So,
Different processor understanding
uh,
what it means by terminating, and it's not an easy process, guys. It's not
mm-hmm.
an easy process like recruitment. You can easily recruit a person. Yeah, you easily recruit a person, but to terminate someone from employment, it's very,
Mm-hmm.
very difficult. Yeah, you have to follow the law. I am not going to talk about the law tonight, because this one is, we have experts talked about the law, but we've talked about with regards to our day-to-day life in the working environment. I have been terminated. I have been terminated when I first, very early in my career. Very early in my career, I didn't know the law and anything else, and someone took advantage of my, not understanding the process, and they issued me a termination letter. But now,
Oh.
is that was about 30 plus years ago. Yeah, 30 plus years
Mm.
ago. But now, if anyone does that to anyone, now you know how to fight back. And it's very, very. I mean, it's about your right as an employee. Yeah, right as an employee. And
Okay.
yeah, so you need to understand. Termination of employment. Let's look at definition. What is termination of employment? The term termination is of employment refers to the end. the ending of an employee's work with the company. Ending of an employee's work with the company. An employee may be terminated from a job on their own free will, voluntarily, yeah, or following a decision made by the employer, sometimes BSS and so forth. Employers who execute termination employment may do so for a number of reasons, many reasons, sometimes including downsizing, poor job performance, or redundancy. For the last 2 years, guys, we have seen a lot of downsizing. We've seen a lot of people being retrenched because of the effects of the pandemic. So again, I don't like to use the word again. I mean, the new normal here is the VUCA normal, and we have to think about it on a daily basis until things really stabilize, especially now situation that we are facing right now with the economy now is getting very challenging now. Yeah, very challenging. Prices have been going up, and not only the prices of oil, but also our day-to-day home essentials. Yes, have been going up. So employers are also feeling the crunch and the pressures of trying to make profits, improve revenues, and so forth. Yeah.
So there's so many factors that may occur that basically cause that termination. But really quick, I'd like to welcome Patricia in. Thanks for stopping by. But back to the topic, Azizan. Okay, so there are so many there's so many factors in play, but I believe the processes, is it all the same, or is it different to each reason as to why the termination occurred?
Okay, the processes is basically the same. Yeah? It's basically the same because number one, guys, you need to understand, companies don't purposely easily terminate anyone. It is a very costly affair, very, very expensive. It is time consuming. If it's involved involuntary processes. Yeah, that's why we always talk to employee. We always we always advise employee in terms of performance, in terms of attitude, in terms of behavior. Always support organization. Do your best in terms of work, for example. In terms of performance, master what you do, because when situation is what we have seen for the last 2 years, organization are under a lot of pressure to reduce workforce. And who do they normally choose? One of the things is we call it the LIFO, the last in, first out. Yes, that's what we do. The other thing is we always look at who are our underperformers. That's why, we talked about talent management a few weeks ago. It's all about differentiation of talent and so forth. So, a person who is at the lower level of the performance, the lower level of the ranking of employees will definitely be selected. Yeah, be selected.
Shortlisted.
Shortlisted to be, to be
chopping block.
But then it's not easy to terminate. But guys, I don't know. I've shared this story before. I used to work with a Japanese company. Yeah, I used to work with Japanese company. The Japanese managers, they are not very familiar with the Malaysian labor law. We have to have procedures. We follow procedures. We have the law that guides us on how to terminate employees and so forth. So one day, what happened is my Japanese manager, my Japanese boss, came to me and said, "Azizan, I want you to terminate that individual." Yeah, that particular individual. So I told my boss, you cannot do it. We cannot do it. Then I show him like this. I think you guys may remember. I show him like this. It's like handcuffs lah. Yeah. So boss, government rule. I told him, this is government rule. You cannot do it. My boss says that, no, Azizan, government rule is your problem. Yeah, it's your problem. So I told my boss, government rule is not really my problem. It's the number one person in the organization's problem. the law will go after him. Yeah, like this. I showed him again. Tangan kena gari lah, so forth. And then what happened is he was stunned and he said, Azizan sah, you know, follow government rules. Follow government rules. Yeah. So the morale here is that, if you understand, if you know the law, the implication of not following the law, then it implicates you as the boss, the organization. You don't want the publicity, the bad publicity of what you have done. Mm-hmm. And also follow what we call is the rule of natural justice. Yeah, natural justice. Yeah, rule of natural, principles of natural justice, or the rule of natural justice, which is, everyone should be heard. Yeah, give opportunity for the person to explain themselves. They're part of the story, not just Azizan. Yeah, and it's very difficult. Yeah, so you must understand. Yeah, must understand, and especially when you have voluntary resignation and voluntary termination, when employee announces his intention to resign, intention to resign, immediate steps should be taken to determine the real reasons and the cause why they want to resign. Yeah, we need to go to the root cause. Understand.
Is the primary reason always a lie?
Sometimes, yes, it may be a lie, but sometimes you know how to find the truth. We do a lot of surveys, and one survey that I do in organization, and when I was working within the same organization, I have what I call it the HR intelligence report.
Oh, wow.
So it's like undercover lah, HR pun undercover. Intelligence report is I always send a form to key supervisors to get the feel of what the people on the floor are talking about. To look at the pulse of the masses of the organization. It's like, trying to see if everything is okay, the pulse is okay or not. And basically, when we get the explanations, the answers, we'll try to do a deep dive and try to understand. But then again, as you say, sometimes people try not to tell the real reason. Right. One is because they are afraid. There are implications from them later on and so forth. So that's why what is happening in Malaysia also same lah. I don't want to elaborate so much, but just like the we call it the what is it?
There's just so many reasons, right? That could happen.
Yeah.
Within the organization. But it's very interesting that you have your own CIA kind of method to find out what everyone is talking about, what the environment in the office is, what is the real reason why this person is trying to leave. It's not the it's not the reason that is stated on the resignation letter or termination, but it is something that causes something. There's a root cause to it.
Right.
And so, what else is behind the process of this? So let's say they hand in the resignation letter.
Okay.
After identifying the cause.
So you need to identify the cause and, where possible and desirable, correct the situation. Correct the situation. You know what the problem is. The problem may be a supervisory problem. The problem may be sometimes some salary issues and so forth. Yeah. So try to correct the problem. But when correcting the problem is not always giving in, is looking at reason. Yeah? It must be reasonable. Yeah. When a person says, I'm resigning because my salary is low. So you looked at the surveys, you looked at the overall equity within the category. Is it at that particular level? Is the salary that we are giving, is it competitive with market? So those are some of the things that we do. Yeah, but it's
Right.
not always saying that we do not want anyone to resign. But if someone wants to resign and ask for something which is beyond what we are capable of, we afford to do, then we
Yeah.
they,
It's
they, they can go.
unfortunate then. Yeah.
Right, right. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, it is very expensive. Especially
Mm-hmm.
if you train people for many, many years, they are very skilled, they have all these special competencies,
That's right.
and their
You've
skills are very
already
difficult to
invested
come by.
so much into
Yeah,
them, right?
right, 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 right. So, you need to correct the situation and try to rectify it as soon as
Mm-hmm.
possible. Yeah,
But
and,
sometimes it's not possible, right? Because like they
yeah,
already most of the time I would assume that when an employee okay, just assuming that they hand in a resignation letter, most of the time
right.
they would already have a job somewhere else,
All
before
right,
they
it's
do
true.
that. How can
Right.
you even rectify that, in that situation?
And, no, basically is we looked at the situation. Is the person worth to keep,
Mm-hmm.
worth to retain? Sometimes that's why we talked about managing and retaining talent. If the is the person worth to retain? If it's worth to retain, then we can ask the person some questions. Have you got a job yet? How much is the company offering you? And what is the culture of the organization? What's the position that you are? What's the new position? And all
Mm-hmm.
those key questions that you want to probably ask, and probably if that person is worth keeping, then we say, hey, that company is offering you this much of salary, so now
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can counter it.
It's basically a renegotiation in a way, right?
Yeah, renegotiate, but it's not really advisable, guys. It's not
Mm-hmm.
really advisable because a person who, so to say, heartbroken, so with the organization, and they want to leave the organization, and if you want to, counter what has been offered, is like a afterthought, lah. It's like afterthought of what
Right.
they have, they have,
It's almost like
earlier.
caging a bird.
Right, it's true, it's true. But then again, that's why the organization is very important for you to start your talent management, your succession planning processes, so that you have people who would be able to move into that empty, vacant position immediately.
Hmm.
Yeah, otherwise it will take months, it takes years, years lah, but it will take months and years to train a person to become capable as what the other individual has. Yeah,
I
and
see.
looking at favorable salary adjustment. So those are some of the things, but it must be equitable. Yeah, it must
Right.
be equitable within the organization.
Now we've
And
talked about we've talked about
yeah,
the employees voluntarily resigning and doing
yeah,
their own
yeah,
termination per se. But what about
yeah.
now you want to terminate your employee? Is it different?
Okay. Oh yeah, it's different. It's different. Definitely different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Involuntary termination. We call it involuntary termination because, people don't want to resign,
Yeah.
but you sort of like go through the process and force them to resign. There
Mm-hmm.
is a process, you guys. It is the policy of any company to make a reasonable effort to retain employees. Yeah, even though their performance, sometimes attitude become unsatisfactory, but if it keeps on going and becomes consistently underperforming, consistently, have the problems with regards to attitude, discipline, and so forth. So you need to take action. And
Mm-hmm.
when you take action, these are some of the things that you need to follow. Yeah, need to follow on the action in terms of termination. Yeah, and making sure that you follow the process of, well, as I mentioned earlier, the natural rules of natural justice, the principles of natural justice. If they have a discipline problem, if they have a performance problem, make sure you investigate those things. Yeah, you investigate those things. Maybe discipline, maybe fighting in the factory or in the office and so forth. And sometimes, guys, having scandal in the office also is a major misconduct,
Ooh, ooh, that
misconduct. So
one
you need
is
to
quite
follow those
spicy,
procedures.
right?
Yeah, maybe the first process is giving them a counseling, a verbal
Mm-hmm.
counseling. Advise them. Yeah, if it's and you give them time to correct that. If
Mm-hmm.
they are still at the same level, then you start giving them warning letters. What's the difference between the counseling and warning letters? The counseling does not go into the employee's personal file. Warning letters will go into employee's personal file. And sometimes we give warning letters in 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. And then we go, yeah, remember, guys, give them as much warning as possible. But we have limits. Sometimes if it's major misconduct or gross misconduct, then you don't need maybe 2 or 3. One would be enough. But it is a good practice to at least follow 1, 2, and 3, and then follow by a show cause letter. Yeah,
Mm.
followed by a show cause letter. Why action should not be taken against you because of
Mm.
alleged misconduct. Yeah, and let's look at what their response would be. If the response is unacceptable, then we move on to the next step, which is which is the domestic inquiry, the internal investigation. Yeah,
Ooh.
internal investigation. It's like a mini court. Yeah,
Ah.
you have a panel, you have the prosecuting officer, and you have the individual sitting within the room, the accused within sitting within the room, and it's just like courts, guys. It's like courts. When there are witnesses that you question witnesses with regards to the misconduct,
Mm-hmm.
and the accused or the defendant will have the opportunity to cross-examine. Ah,
Ooh.
to
Okay. Okay.
cross-examine. So
Very
those are the
interesting.
technical things that happens lah. But by the end of the day, but what I'm trying to emphasize is follow procedures. Why you need to follow procedures? When you follow procedures, you are doing what we call as legally defensible action. Your
Mm.
actions are legally defensible. Yeah, actions are legally defensible.
Now,
But
really quick, I'd like to
mhm,
ask. So, say in the event where you have terminated an employee in a way that is
mhm,
not legally defensible, how
mhm.
much can you be sued for that?
Okay, the process again. Let's say uh, the person has been unfairly
Mm-hmm.
terminated.
Mm-hmm.
They say they are unfairly terminated. They have been terminated
Correct.
lah. We say
Correct.
it's not for us to say unfairly. For
Mm-hmm.
the organization, say we have done it fairly. So they
Correct.
immediately, when they get terminated, they will go to the labor department,
Correct.
and they go to the labor department, say I have been unfairly dismissed or
Mm-hmm.
terminated,
Mm-hmm.
and they will ask for let me see your letter. Yeah, and they will probably refer the individual to the IR department, the industrial relations department, and the industrial relations department will cite what we call it the section 20 unfair dismissal,
Mm-hmm.
and they will call the employer and employee to meet again.
Mm-hmm.
But these are some more technical things lah. But I don't want
Mm.
to, this because of the time, very difficult to emphasize. But
True. True.
there would be a reconciliation meeting between the the ex-employee and the employer at the labor department.
I see.
Reconciliation meeting. And during the reconciliation meeting that I have experienced is the labor officer will ask me, Azizan, please take this person back. Um,
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
yeah, or at least you pay him some termination benefits. Yeah, if they are considered as unfairly dismissed, but to us, they have gone through the process, and we have done the investigation, and there is the panel and so forth, and we stick to our decision. Yeah, we stick to our decision.
I see, I see.
Yeah.
So it's actually
So
quite a long process. It's not as simple as saying, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Ha!
no, no,
Push
no,
you
no.
away.
Hey,
Block.
but yeah, but in my experience, when I terminated
Hmm.
after terminating anyone, I have terminated general managers. I have terminated, I have sent back MDs back to Japan because
Oh
of
no.
not following the culture, the discipline, because of you know CBT, breach of trust and so forth.
Hmm.
So by the end of the day, is all about sometimes one of the experience that I have is I help a person to get another job lah. The person
Oh,
may say that
in the
I
process of that, you would help them to get another job.
after that,
I see, I see.
after that, because the feelings as a friend is still there, as the ex superior. I mean, always, I believe in second chances, lah, guys. I believe in
Hmm.
second chances.
Hmm.
Sometimes people regret doing it, but sometimes they have families to feed and so forth. So it's very difficult, but you have to do. These are
Mm,
some things that you have to do. Yeah. Uh,
I see.
but then again,
Very
when
nice.
we looked at with termination, so when sometimes someone resigns also voluntarily, they will come to the HR manager and say, Azizan, can you give me a letter, a testimonial,
Recommendation.
a
Okay.
recommendation? And usually, what we do in HR, we don't give them a recommendation. We don't give them a testimonial. Yeah,
Hmm.
we give them a letter, but the letter is general letter. This is how long Azizan worked in this company, from this period to this period. This is his position, and the salary earned is this much, and that's it. We don't say much about that guy is an okay guy. He's a I mean perform no we don't, because we don't
Right.
want to get implicated
I see.
in any way in future.
I see. I see. Wow, that is quite an interesting insight to those who don't work in
Yeah,
HR or have not
yeah.
dealt with this type of situation. But I believe we are nearing the end of the show. So, Azizan, would you
Mhm.
like to add on, any words of wisdom before we end?
No, basically, everyone is a talent in your organization. Because why? Because when recruiting them, you got the best person from the interviews of the many people that you have processed through. So your talent, sometimes you need to make sure that you groom, you develop them to become future leaders in the organization. Losing a good talent is very costly, up to 100,000 ringgit for senior for middle management. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
we keep our talent and to make sure that they become future leaders of departments, sections, organization. Yeah,
Mm.
so be good to them.
Thank you so much, Azizan, and thank you so much for everyone that is watching the show right now. We really appreciate your viewership. Once again, we
Mhm.
are live every 8:30 p.m. 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8, live on the Big
Mhm.
Chief channel. Thank you, everyone, and how good night, everyone. Catch you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Big smile.